Howdy guys, it's Billy here from Billy's Table, and today we're making galaktoboureko. Galaktoboureko is a Greek sweet. So galo meaning milk and boureko meaning stuff to fill. So the first process here is a sugar syrup. So it's sugar, water, a little bit of honey, some lemon zest, and a bit of a cinnamon stick. We bring it to the boil. We just allow it to sort of steep for a minute or two, and then we park it aside. The next stage there, we're now going to get our custard-like base ready. So we've got equal quantities of milk and thickened cream. There's vanilla and a pinch of salt in this as well. Once we bring this to the boil, we will add semolina to it, and that's what's going to give us the texture that we desire. So as I've added the cream and milk mixture, I have 200 grams of sugar, but I'm only using half of the sugar at the moment. So I'm going to lightly put it on the bottom. So I'll reserve the other half to go with my eggs. I'm not going to touch it, I'm just going to let it sit. The sugar will sort of form a barrier on the bottom of the base. That way there, the milk won't burn. And once we start to get that to the boil, bring it to the simmer, then we can slowly mix it up. Custard-like mixtures just come to the boil. I'm just going to lightly put it down a bit. Now we can mix in that sugar, stir it in, just till that sugar dissolves. So the custard-like mixture is now starting to simmer, get the right consistency. It's been about 3 or 4 minutes. Got about 170 grams of the fine semolina. I'm going to add that into it. And at this stage here, we're going to whisk it in. So we're not going to take this too far, but we're just going to take it far enough that when I start to form figure 8 motions, that I can start to see the 8s. At this stage here, I'm going to take it off. To stop the cooking process, I'm going to add in about 100 grams of cold butter. And I'm going to slowly whisk that in. It's going to give it some richness. It's going to cool it down to prevent it from cooking further. And that's it. So we're going to put that aside. We're going to allow it to cool it down for about 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to take the next step. So our second part of the process, the galaktoboureko, is I've got 4 whole eggs and the remaining 100 grams of sugar. So I'm going to add it into my KitchenAid. Just going to mix it up a little bit just to break down the eggs. I'm going to add in my sugar. And I'm just going to whisk this for about 3 or 4 minutes till it's really light and fluffy and it's doubled or even tripled in volume. Almost tripled in volume. Just gonna, that's it, turn it down a little bit. That custard mixture that's slightly cooled down now for roughly about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm gonna add a little bit in there to begin with, just to break and hold that temperature of those eggs. Just bind that in a little bit first. And then we can add the rest. Okay. And that's it. That's our texture. So it holds really well. Nice custardy, velvety, semolina feel. Great. So I'll park that aside. Now we're going to make the phyllo pastry side. So now the assembly part. I've melted roughly about 150 mils of butter. Just going to brush my tray. The tray is I'm using a rectangle tray. You can use an oval tray, a round tray, but traditionally we use a long rectangle trays. Very important, wet, damp cloth on top of the phyllo pastry, so as you move between the layers, it still becomes quite moist. Nothing worse than trying to work hard, dry filet pastry. So we're going to do about 4 or 5 layers of phyllo. Allow the filet pastry to work its magic. Don't touch it, let it do its thing, let it naturally fall. Drizzle generously between each layer with filet pastry. All right. So what we're doing now is we're forming a crust, we're forming a base, so we can put the custard semolina mixture in the middle. And at this stage, I'm going to add in a mixture, and the pastry will hold its shape. Cool. Now, at this stage here, I'm going to fold in gently just to hold it, to close it in. And then I'm going to add some more layers. The remaining layers. And we repeat the process until all the pastry is completed. I'm going to fold this in. And then I'm going to keep going. Now I'm going to add in the top layer. So we've tucked in those edges, we've sort of hidden all of the cut off or the edge off bits. And at this stage, what we're going to do is we're lightly going to just gently tuck it in. Not work it too much, and allow the butter and the brush to give it a nice shape. So we're tucking it in, making it nice and neat. Right. Filet pastry needs butter. It needs it to work its magic in the oven. It needs it to help make it crispy. Okay, now this stage here, we get a knife and we have to form its shape. So when we cut it later and it cools down, we can cut the piece easier. Also, when we add in the syrup, once it's come out of the oven, the syrup can seep through. So I'm going to cut this in half. Now you don't want to go too far. All I'm doing is just piercing the top 2 layers of pastry. So it's not going through. If you go too far, the custard would spill out. So we're cutting this into quite generous portions. These are. We get 8 of these. I mean, if you're at home, you can cut this into 10s or even 12s. Then you cross it, as every Greek does. You put it in the oven, pray to God it comes out perfect, nice and crispy. Our galaktoboureko has come out of the oven in about 50 minutes. Nice and crispy. So at this stage here, this is where it becomes the fun part, that lemon sugar syrup that we made earlier is all going to get poured on top. And we're going to allow that to soak right through. And don't be shy. You might think it's not enough syrup, but all of that syrup needs to go through. Okay, straight out of the oven, we've poured the syrup on top, still nice and crispy. It is quite warm still. Like I mentioned, you can have it warm or cold. We're serving this warm because I love it fresh, straight out of the oven. Oh yeah. Better pour a syrup on top. And that there is our fresh galaktoboureko.